Welcome to the Site-65 podcast. I am your host, Robert Tomato Peterson, and with me, as always, is senior researcher Keegan. Keegan, how are you today?
I'm doing all right.
Wonderful to hear. Wonderful to hear. I'm not.
Oh, what happened, Tomato? Why you sad?
It's kind of a long story. So we don't, we're surrounded by people who, are with us for a very, very brief amount of time, and it doesn't really get to me that often. But today I learned of so you're not going to understand this because I don't think you watch the same, programming I do. But as a nice escape from the Foundation life, I like to watch wrestling, like WWE, AEW, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And my favorite wrestler, legit favorite wrestler, passed away today.
Aw, that's
Yeah. And
unfortunate.
I'm gutted because he was only 36 and I'm 28. Like, I know that's
Mortality,
still
huh?
8 yeah, that's still an 8-year difference, but at the same time, that's kind of close to my age. So, I wanted to have kind of a general discussion today about what we see in the foundation and it kind of makes you appreciate all the resources we have available to kind of, improve our quality of life. Because let's be real, life down here in the foundation, I think you said it best on the first episode. Kind of grim.
Grim. Yeah, pretty bleak as well.
Yeah, it can be really hard to get motivated and really hard to, find stuff to look forward to when you're surrounded by so much suffering each day. And not just in the form of the SCPs who are kept here, but also of the D class. We kind of take for granted that they are essentially human beings at the end of it, and we're putting them through all this torment for what sometimes doesn't feel like much. We try our best to find reason and cause for all of our testing, but then you have tests where they feed a child 682,
Yeah.
and you have those moments of like, is it really worth what we're doing? Is science of any value?
I I have that a lot. I think the biggest instance of that was I was working with this D class, and for me, it's always D class are very well. What's that word? It's like on something. Like they really don't want to do tests. Like they really.
Yeah,
There was just
because they
one
don't
D.
know what's going on.
Yeah, they don't know what's happening, but there was this one D class that was just so cooperative and nice, like he was the only D class I've ever met where he could light up a room, and his number was DU4164. I Seeing him being so full of life at one moment and then the next he's dead.
Yeah, it's a real tragedy. I had a lot of moments like this where I questioned whether or not the work I was doing in the foundation was worth anything when I tested on SCP-1123. It's known as the Atrocity Skull. Are you
Oh,
familiar with this SCP?
I believe I've heard of it.
Okay,
No, it's been
so
a while.
I'll give you a brief rundown. It's a human skull, well, thought to be human skull, missing its lower jaw, and it has markings and inscriptions in a foreign language on the forehead of the skull. If you
Oh,
touch the skull, you essentially experience the life of someone caught up in a tragedy, whether it be maybe you're a family displaced from home due to war. Maybe you're a victim of a genocide. Maybe you're a victim of malnutrition or otherwise something. It's always something atrocious, something that
yeah.
you would never wish upon anyone. I did a lot of documentation about that, and really, after I was done with that, took the next month and just kind of reflected on everything I've done in the foundation because one of the ones that really stuck to me was we had a young man, we had a young D class, and we had him touch the skull. And this all happens in a split second. You experience the lifetime in a second. He came back, and before we sent him into the chamber, he was very, perky, lively. Um, didn't seem like an all around bad guy. Him coming out of that test, he was as quiet and reserved as you could possibly imagine. And he refused to talk for about 3 weeks. But we kept him just to make sure, you know, he was gonna be okay. Finally, he talked and he experienced life as a child growing up in Germany during the '40s,
Oh,
specifically a Jewish child.
yeah.
And he only asked one thing. He said, "Can you make sure everyone gets, a loaf of bread to eat tonight?" And I said, "Sure, of course." And, we, of course, gave him amnestics to make him forget about the things that he had seen because he was not doing so well. And he returned to his normal perky self afterwards. But it's one of those things where you don't know how good you have it until you see it through other people's eyes. Like, I bitch and moan a lot about life and my pursuits, and not only about what the foundation does, but also, politicking and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
in reality, when you really look at it, we have it so good compared to some other people.
Yeah. I agree.
And we really shouldn't take that for granted. And I'm sorry to break down the mood so much. It's not my intention, but I want to express all of this because it's a tough thing to reckon with your own mortality, and it's a tough thing to reckon with life, and it's scary. It's
Yeah.
genuinely scary. Back to the guy I was talking about, his name was Bray Wyatt, by the way. Like I said, he was only 36. He had, 2 kids and a wife, and now those kids aren't gonna get to have a dad, and that's scary. And it makes me think of all the people who we have locked up who maybe have families that they're never gonna see again. And it's kind of like, do we really know what we're doing here? Are we really the good guys at the end of it?
I feel like with the foundation, there's no good guys or bad guys. We're the people who have to get it done. Even if it means doing horrible, awful things. We don't even know. We don't even know the things that the foundation has done under different classifications. We have no idea.
That
And
is
that's
true.
and that's extremely scary to me also. Because what atrocities have we committed that no one else knows? The unspoken, the unseen.
It is very scary, but I think the message here, at least, is to try to live life to the fullest.
Yeah.
Because, like I said before, and like we've said thousands of times, we don't know when it's going to end. We don't have that prediction. We can
Yeah.
do all the scientific research about life and death and everything, but we truly do not know. And to
Yeah.
anyone listening who is perhaps struggling with that, maybe they're feeling outcasted or maybe they're feeling different and they reckon life is going to get harder. I'm not going to tell you it's going to be easy, but I can tell you it's going to be worth it. The
Yeah.
only guarantee in life is a life worth dying for. And I wouldn't change my life for anything. And Keegan, I don't think you would change yours for anything.
No, I do miss people. People who are gone. It's been a long time since they've been gone, but you have to move forward
Yeah.
no matter what.
So, with all that being said, uh, rest in peace, Bray Wyatt. Big fan of yours, and
Rest in peace.
it sucks that you're gone, but you gave me a lot of enjoyment in life, so thank you. In the meantime, Keegan, what have you been up to this past week? You mentioned, I believe you mentioned a 999 cross test last week.
Yeah. I've been trying to get the document for that actually written. Um, you
What
know,
was it on again?
it was a 076 and 99 cross test.
Okay.
I feel as if there's more to our well, except for like 682, maybe 035 and 106, to our very brutal SCPs. The ones that the poor MTF have to deal with every other day.
Yeah. Though thankfully breaches have subsided in the past couple.
Yeah, they've
It
gotten more
used
effective,
Yeah, thankfully. It used to be scary stepping outside of your office.
honestly.
Now I could confidently like go to the break room and not feel like, I'm gonna turn and 096 is gonna be standing there like staring at me. Not that 096 would necessarily be staring at me. I don't think he would want that, but you get what I mean.
Yeah, I get it.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I'm still technically on my vacation. I keep popping in for just to talk to you guys because I've kind of realized outside of the foundation, I don't really have much of a life.
Mm.
So even I know that sounds funny to say, but like work is technically my life. And you know, um I don't know. I don't know if I should say this, but I did receive another job offer.
From where? I've thought about touring other places, honestly, because I like all types of science. What
Yeah,
was the place?
you're not gonna believe this. The CI reached out to me.
Oh,
I received a letter in the mail, and it basically talked about, hey, we've been listening to the podcast, and that whole thing is just a debacle on its own end. You heard how uh that one guy got yelled at last podcast, which
yeah.
honestly, looking back, funny as hell. Um, very funny. But at the same time, like, sucks to be him. I don't know what happened to him for the time being. Um, but they wanted to hire me into their they wanted to basically poach me into their research department,
Oh,
and I politely declined. And
hmm.
they were offering big money, like more than I'll ever make here. But I knew that the second I accepted that job, the foundation would be coming for me.
Oh, most certainly. Most definitely.
Yeah,
Indubitably, in fact. Like they are relentless. Um,
they
but
are. It's scary how resourceful the foundation can be sometimes. Like
honestly.
it's incredible how much they knew about me before I even like, started. Like I showed up one day and they're like, "Ah, Robert, good to see you." And I'm like, "I haven't even introduced myself to you. How do you know who I am?"
I know
And
it
they're like,
all. Like,
"Yeah." They're like, "Yeah, we
like
got you your corner office. We got you, a little stress ball of a cactus." And I'm like, "Those are like things I keep on my desk at home. Like, how did you know this?"
they know a lot. Like, I remember I was going as a because I'm level 3 now since it's a senior researcher. I got to look through some files, and I was gonna originally take a tour at like Black Mesa, but
No shit.
the foundation. quickly poached me though. So the I do like Black Mesa. It looks like a really nice place though. But the SCP Foundation doesn't really like them apparently, which I don't know why.
Yeah, you'd think like scientists would like other scientists, but then again, I don't really think they specialize in containing anomalies. They're more of
Yeah.
like neutrons and protons and electrons and electricity and stuff like that. They're not really into, hey, we're going to cage up this weird creature that turns, money into butterflies and we're going to keep it contained forever. And that's just something I made up off the top of my head. I don't think there's an SCP that turns money into butterflies. If there is, I don't know if I would want it because
What about one that's like exploding lemons? That'd be fucking terrifying.
that would be
Yeah.
awesome though. When life gives you lemons, burn down people's houses. Um or make them explode. Either way, that's awesome. Isn't there correct me with if I'm wrong, and I'm gonna actually pull out my little PDA and look this up
Yeah.
because we have connections to our database from here. It's an SCP that's like a fruit, but it hates democracy.
Fruit that hates
One second.
democracy?
Yeah, I swear to God, I'm not making this up.
I really don't like Aperture. They really don't treat scientists correctly.
Yes, here it is. SCP-6124, the cactus that hates democracy.
Ah,
And it's a cacti that sits on a potted plant and it spouts off words about how it hates democracy and how it prefers communism. Like,
weird
that's cool.
cactus. That's it's
Yeah,
funny. Yeah, it's cool, but that's a weird cactus.
I mean, that is a very weird cactus, and I don't know if I would want it on my desk. Um, but at the same time, like I love that there exists some like weird things like that. Like I love that not all of the SCPs we contain are like world-ending anomalies
Monsters.
or yeah,
Yeah.
monsters. I love that it's just like, yeah, this is a boomerang that never comes back. Like I love researching stuff like that.
Most
Like
definitely came from Australia.
yes, exactly. Um or it's
Most of
like
our
a
anomalies are from Australia, I think. I'm not too sure though.
are you sure you're
It's
not thinking of like the wildlife there?
yeah. I think I'm getting that confused.
Like I've
It
seen
looks
I
like 682.
go ahead.
No, it looks like 682 could have came from there, honestly.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to be honest. I actually have a theory 682 came from the frost in Antarctica.
Huh.
I have a theory that, 682 existed. There used to be thousands of 682s. Long, long,
Oh,
long
oh
ago,
no.
before humans were ever a thing.
Oh.
And I'm what I think happened is one day one of the 682s was just laying down for a nap and got buried under some rubble, something that he couldn't break out. Maybe like a mudslide happened or something like that. I don't know. And then he got trapped under there. And as the continents broke apart and moved, eventually the continent that he was buried under became Antarctica. So eventually all the ground around him was washed away and turned into ice, and he was just buried under literal tons and tons of ice. And as the world started to heat up again, eventually he was thawed out because that's why we only have records of 682 dating back a couple hundred years, when in reality, he's obviously way older than that.
He's gotta be.
Yeah. So that's my working theory. I poked and prodded with 682 before my leave of absence, and I mean, I haven't identified any defining characteristics that would say he was buried in ice for centuries, but, you know, it's literally all we have to work on.
I wanted
Do
to
you have it?
ask,
Yeah.
uh, who's like the weirdest individual you've met in like the foundation? Met like hundreds and thousands of people. That's not
Oh,
really a
that's
brag.
very easy. I used to work with a man called Protege. Um,
Oh,
he was incredibly weird. A very good friend of mine, but incredibly weird. He never talked. He never left. We actually we were concerned one day because we've never this was at a completely different site before I moved here. We didn't even know where he went at the end of the day. So
oh,
we set up some security cameras and found out that he would just go into the basement and sleep next to the boiler.
what the fuck?
Yeah. He would go down there, stay warm, and he would like go down he would stay later than everyone else, and he would start super early because he only got like 3 hours of sleep. And so he would just be up here and he would just be working. He was a phenomenal worker. He did very good work, but man, if he wasn't the oddest individual I've ever met.
Honestly, that is very, very odd. I think the oddest individual I've ever met is a tech expert, and every single tech expert to me is kind of weird. They act odd. They're like the most people that cause trouble, but this guy, I gotta be honest. I've been around Site-65 on multiple occasions, and I'm not going nuts here, but this guy, man. He says his name is Carl, and I'm like, okay, and I check his ID, and it's Carl, but he says the weirdest shit. Like, he says some of the weirdest fucking things. Like, he talks about, like, PlayStation out of nowhere. I don't I've seen every single tech expert. I've come across them, but I've never seen this guy a day in my life in Site-65. I don't even know where he goes. I don't know. There was a
It's
moment when he was talking to me. Like, there was one moment, and he just turned to me and he went, "There's nothing up there." And I said, "Excuse me?" And then he proceeds to just walk away.
oh my god. That would be terrifying.
He's a fucking weirdo. I don't know what's up with him. Like, he's
Well, there's
I
nothing up with him. He just said there's nothing up there.
I mean, true, but like I I asked a mobile task force. I asked him straight up, "Have you seen this guy anywhere? Like you, me and you have been around a lot." He turned to me and he full on said, "I have no idea who that is."
Yeah,
He just m- manifested. I don't know who he is.
maybe he's an SCP.
I'm scared that he is. I don't know. He scares me.
I don't know. Uh,
I've come face to face with 682 at like awful moments, but that guy, he scares me. I don't know. There's something about him. I remember
the
on
six.
one other occasion actually, we heard rumbling. It was during a 682 breach actually. Funny enough, I mentioned him. And Carl turns, and everyone's just kind of like, "Oh shit!" And he goes, "The big lizard's coming." He is a tech expert, and he knows. He doesn't know like the designation. Maybe he just knows the big old lizard. But
Well, to be fair, there's a info breach in D block every other minute these
that
days.
is true. Actually, yeah, fair.
Like,
That's pretty fair.
there's not a single day that's gone by in the past month that a D class isn't shouting about an SCP.
RCP-409, the crystal. I heard that at one point.
Yeah. It also doesn't help that occasionally, like 999 will sneak its way into D block. I think it just likes that it's surrounded by other orange people.
I was gonna say that. Yeah, the
Yeah.
orange.
So like he slides under the door when no one's looking, and all the D class are like, "Oh my god, what is this thing? It's adorable!" And then we have to go in and gun them. Well, we don't, but the
Oh,
MTF have
yeah.
to go in and gun them down, and extract 999, and 999 doesn't really understand what's going on, so he just is there playing, and yeah, he protects the D class, but at the same time, he doesn't understand them. I don't even know how 999 manages to slip under doors. They are sealed tight, but he just liquefies and goes under.
He's pretty talented. A little blob, the little
He
ginormous
is.
blob.
Is. You want to go? You want to end this episode and go play with 999?
Hell yeah.
All right. This has been the Site-65 podcast. I'm your host, Robert Tomato Peterson. With me, as always, senior researcher Keegan. Keegan, thank you for hosting.
No
And
problem.
yep, thank you very much. And we hope you all have a wonderful week. Go hug a loved one. Thank you.
Yeah.